The idea behind today's session is to help veterans get into technology and product roles. With the digital economy of today, there are new kind of roles coming in product management, program management, development, and business development. What we wanted to make sure is veterans who are great at problem solving, who are great at strategy, execution, who have great skills about trade-offs, that how can they find careers in technology and product. That's the main intent behind today's session. And I have a great esteemed panel here in front of me. So with that, I actually wanted to take an opportunity to introduce our first panelist, Tom. If you could, the question is kind of common to all of you, that if you can briefly talk about what your role was in the defense services, or where you were working, and now where do you work in the corporate sector, what particular role you are at. If you could please do that. Thank you so much.
Sure. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I was stationed at JBLM from 2002 to 2007. I was a Striker Reconnaissance Platoon Leader, so my job was to find, to quote, the threat, and I also was a military intelligence officer. Now I work at Amazon Web Services, where I'm a business development manager overseeing our migration strategy for our ISVs.
Thank you. What about you? If you can introduce yourself with your background. And so, Jeff, if you can tell our background, where you are currently, the same question.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jeff Yorlin. I did 5 years in the U.S. Army as a combat engineer officer, 2 tours to Afghanistan as a primarily focusing on route clearance. Got out in 2015, got my MBA from Northwestern, did a year and a half at Amazon as a senior product manager, and am currently at Nestle Starbucks as a product manager working on the Espresso by Starbucks launch.
Thank you, Jeff. Alex?
My name is Alex Kim. I did 8 years in the Army. I was also stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord from 2009 to 2011. From there, I did a combat deployment to Iraq, where I was a platoon leader, and I was doing economic development work for a marketplace that had been attacked by insurgents. After I got out, I got my MBA from the University of Michigan, and I currently work in Boeing Global Services, where I'm doing technology integration.
Thank you. Paul?
Yeah, my name is Paul. I'm still currently active duty, but I'll be getting out this month actually, April 2019. Wow. So super excited.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm an infantry officer, so I've been in the military for about 6 years, and I am currently transitioning out, looking into software product development roles. So I'm a student of Nitin at product school, and I just saw the experience that veterans can bring in the product management sphere. So definitely want to pursue that as my career.
And I also wanted to convey my vote of thanks for Paul. As we met during the cohort at product school, one of the things Paul inspired me to do was to create a more sustainable online community where we could actually answer questions for veterans to come into technology and product roles. So before we go further, I just want to share one story with everyone here and people on Facebook. So this was 2012. One of my friends was actually deployed for the 3rd time in Afghanistan. And I was naturally very worried for him. And I tried to refer him in one of the companies for a corporate role. What I was told, unfortunately, was that he doesn't have an MBA and he's not eligible for those roles there. At that point of time, I felt really helpless, and I felt that we need to do more as a society. We need to create opportunities of training and giving opportunities to our veterans who have great skills and proven skills. It's almost life and death skills. That is one of the main reasons we have been wanting to doing this. And Paul, thank you so much for inspiring all of us to do today's session. With that, I want to go back to you, Tom, and obviously what a great set of experiences. You've also worked in intelligence. With such great, rich set of experiences, what inspired you to get into technology or product? What was the main reason?
I've always believed and certainly experienced, whether it was and primarily militarily, the impact that technology can have on your productivity, on your operations. You kind of, quote, have a technology advantage when I was operating in Iraq. And so my curiosity always was thinking about what could we do next with this to make everyone smarter, faster, and better. And once I was making the decision to stay in or out, I had the opportunity to work with someone in the Army who eventually actually joined Boeing.
Right.
And then at that point, I always would just do a bit of informational interview. These guys actually on informational interviews. It's just trying to understand what he was doing over at Boeing. He was working in the Boeing defense side of the business.
I see.
And was doing actually software product management. And I was like, wow, what are you guys exactly doing over there? And so I got to see what he did, taking customer requirements, building the product, bringing it back to the customer, and going back until they got it right. And that's what really scratched my itch in terms of being in this business, being around technology, and truly believing that it does make a big difference in people's lives to make businesses better, people smarter, and to have things run faster.
Oh, thank you so much. To you, Jeff, I think you mentioned you were at Amazon. That was one of your first job. How was that transition, that moving from the military directly to Amazon? If you can walk us through, what was the reason for you to get inspired to come to a more corporate civilian kind of role? Yeah.
Well, for full transparency, I didn't go directly from the military to Amazon.
I see.
I had 2 years getting my MBA.
I see.
So
Yes.
that was a nice kind of bumper, moving from military to B school into the corporate sector. But I think the transition from the military to B school to the corporate sector, what really drew me to Amazon and product management in general, and I think it was kind of what had already been mentioned, is that opportunity to solve problems. In the military, you kind of get different things thrown at you every single day, or every single mission, depending if you are deployed or not. And that opportunity to use to approach different problems and solve exciting things every day is what really drew me to product management and the opportunity at Amazon.
Great. For you, Alex, now, what kind of advice would you give someone who's wanting to get into technology or product? Because every company is different, people take a path of going through an MBA, which is one way to get into, easing your way into the corporate civilian life. But what is the kind of thing you would advise? Would MBA is one option? What are the other kind of things you would suggest?
I'm kind of biased because I already got my MBA. I think I can't stress the importance of trying to get your MBA because it really gives you a holistic understanding of the business. And when people think of tech, they kind of have a one-sided view, just like some nerdy programmer.
Correct.
Which isn't just one-sided view of it, but as a product, you got to have a full understanding of what that product does. How does it deliver value to the customer?
Right.
What kind of funding do you need to get the product? Who do you need to interact with to get that product from point A to point B? So I think my business school experience gave me a real rounded educational experience to help prepare me for that role.
No, actually, that's a really good clarification. If you can deep dive on this further, a lot of people have this notion that you need a computer science degree or a really fancy math degree. So obviously, I think MBA is a great way to understand the customer, understand the business. What are the other kind of things people could do to be ready? One is getting back to school and learning it. What are the other kind of things you would assume people to brush up, be understanding the trends and stuff like that?
To be honest, I don't know what other options there were, because you kind of mentioned of your friend back in 2012 trying, and I was in the same position.
I see.
I literally tried to get a job in Amazon directly from the Army, and I got shut down by Amazon, Boeing, every single company. I had no choice but to get my MBA.
Okay.
So understanding now that the options are more available, which is a good thing. I'm really glad to be out here trying to give my advice to others.
Please Tom.
I did go straight from the military into Boeing, and one thing I concentrated on probably a good 7 to 8 months before my initial exit date is that I got into the literature. One thing I certainly advise anyone I talk to probably 2 or 3 veterans a month, is that you got to build up your frame of reference for the industry you want to join.
Okay.
You got to learn the language. You got to know who the big players are. And I found that when I actually did the interview, and they were, folks were asking me the various questions and such, and the feedback I would get from my interviewers is they thought I actually was already in the industry.
Right.
They actually were surprised that I was a veteran. They saw that I was a veteran, but they thought maybe I was a veteran a long time ago.
Yeah.
And that and that was, I didn't go through a course or anything. Like
Yeah.
It was just quote reading the magazines, so to speak, or if anyone reads magazines anymore,
Right.
or reading things online, or just watching various YouTube videos or whatever the case might be,
Yeah.
just to get yourself acquainted. I was always drop into these actually these meetups. Actually,
Yeah, meetups, yeah, meetups,
I
yeah.
just hang out in the
Yeah.
meetups, just listen, learn, don't do much talking, just to kind of be a sponge and absorb it.
No, I think that's a great point. And also, I think, as you were mentioning earlier, I do think now companies like Amazon have a program where they allow people to come and get trained before they actually join the jobs. And I think this is also a cue for companies to create programs like this, that before the veterans are ready to take the plunge and take up a corporate job, maybe create some kind of a training program which can help them with skills on business development, understanding product, or even technology, because a lot of personnel from the defense have a aptitude for solving problems. So thank you so much for clarification on this. So
Vincent, I
yeah,
do want to
yeah.
add, and kind of agreeing with what Tom said. So I'm not pursuing my MBA at the moment, and I'm currently trying to transition out. So I think right now it's a great time. There's so many resources, whether it's via online or meetups or things like product school, general assembly. So it's really kind of figuring out. I would say step one would be doing your research, either with talking to mentors, talking to different like veterans who are outside of the industry, and kind of understanding, hey, what industry, what kind of role do you want to do? I think those are the two biggest things. Like, what industry and what role. Once you kind of get that narrowed down, that's when you could like look specifically on LinkedIn on those specific industries or specific roles. Go to meetups. Go to this product school is specific in product school, but go to like boot camps or like these event boot camps that they might have, and just try to like meet with the network, understand the big players, talk, build your network, build your mentors, and that's kind of a way to transition in, because I know not everyone wants to go to the MBA route. There might be certain factors prohibiting you from getting an MBA at the current moment. But that doesn't mean you can't go in, and I think Tom's a very successful story of someone who's getting.
Yeah.
And I also would call out, for those who don't take the MBA route, I think some of the challenges that a veteran goes through when they look at various roles and stuff. They see roles that they would like to do in terms of, oh, that's really cool. It's eventually what the route I want to go, versus the ones that are like suited for them.
Right.
So my first job in tech at Boeing was not a really tech-related role. I was the chief of staff and operations guy. For us in the business.
Yeah.
And so it gave me exposure to the business, learn the language, learn how things work. So that once I built my frame of reference up, and it only took me about 6 to 8 months, I got into a technology role after that.
I think that's a great. I think getting into the company is important. The first step, I think from what I'm hearing, is getting the first step in is important, and then you can figure out, learn the skill and get into the role what you want to get to. That's a great thing. And another thing I want to point out here is there are a lot of new non-conventional routes of learning. Like obviously going to the university, going back to school, and if you have the time and the finances for doing this for 1 year or 2 years is good. But I think what has happened is in last 5-6 years, a lot of these non-conventional schools like Lambda School, General Assembly, Product School, so many of them have, or even University of Washington have these short-time certificate or courses where at least there is familiarization with a lot of these topics. I think you were talking about learning the lingo, learning the talk. I think that is one of the things where at something affordable, a lot of these courses are free as well, like MIT offers some free courses online, where at least you can learn things like customer acquisition cost or lifetime value of customer for product, or for technologists if they want to learn HTML, web programming. There are a lot of these courses are free which are offered by MIT. So thank you MIT for that. So
well, I would add in even the larger technology companies here. They have courses online that are free. It's the actual certification test is something you have to pay for, but they're all available for free.
No, that's a good point.
Quite honestly, as someone who's looked at resumes that come across, when somebody has taken the time to do that, it's showing me they're trying to increase their frame of reference for where they're trying to go. Not just some veterans have showed up basically, hey, I'm a veteran. You don't give me a job because I'm a veteran. I'm going to listen to you because you're a veteran. You have to increase that frame of reference.
No, I think that's a good point, that it is both ways. I think I do think corporates also have to have more, it's almost like corporate social responsibility, that you have to create avenues for training and opportunities, and just spread the word that we are hiring a lot of, in entry level jobs, may not be the supervisor, but at least giving that kind of opportunity which is available through meetups or anything like that. And the second one, I think you're right. I think there is also homework which needs to be done so that your chances of succeeding are higher. So that's great. So coming to the part on, I think the transition is a very interesting phase where I think a lot of us fear change, right? When you're changing something, obviously there is fear of the unknown. So Tom, in your experience, what was the biggest challenge you had when you actually came to civilian life or corporate life, other than people being late to meetings? I think let's like that is something I think they don't have the military level of discipline to be on exactly the time. If you keep that aside, what are the other things you found in your experience which were challenging?
Probably the number one, just for me personally, I pride myself as someone who could, quote, hit the ground running. And that I underestimated how different it was. Not hard in terms of how to operate in the private sector, just what differences are. And the key differences that were a little bit, I guess, challenging to work with is a bit of the corporate doublespeak. You're in a meeting with someone and you ask them a direct question, and you get this, it's kind of almost a yes or no type question you ask them. You get this long-winded answer, and you're trying to figure out what ultimately they told you and what guidance they're trying to provide. And so that's something that I had to actually adjust the way how I hear and listen and adapt to that. And being too direct back to someone, it kind of can send a wrong signal and so on and so forth there. Whereas in my time in the Army, especially when I worked in the infantry units, it's very clear, black and white, yes or no. There's no fudging around this. And so certainly I had to learn a little bit of that corporate doublespeak in order to find out what is expected, how you actually perform, and then how to respond to it.
Oh, no, that's really. Any tips any one of you has now you might have been exposed to these kind of things, behaviors. What are the kind of things which are in your skill set or your experiences you think you can better adapt to these kind of situations?
I think one thing that I'm sure we all have, and that perhaps people who don't have the military background don't understand, is when you're in the military, you get experiences working with all types of different people. I mean, we're all dressed the same, we all have the same type of haircut, but everyone comes from a very different background. You have to quickly learn how to work with different people in different situations and different strengths and different weaknesses that people have. So I think that's relatively easily transferable to the civilian sector.
Absolutely.
Where you're going to be working with people with different expertises, different personalities, obviously, and you can definitely translate that experience you have in the military of dealing with people from different backgrounds and how to leverage people's strengths to kind of advance whatever the overall goal is. I think that translates pretty well to the civilian sector, and that is a skill that a lot of vets bring to whatever corporation they work in.
And Alex, question for you. What is one thing you would have liked to know before you actually took the plunge? If there was one thing you would have, if you had hindsight, what is the thing you would have loved to know?
Civilians have a different type of sense of humor.
It's softer.
Yeah, it's softer. So you got to be careful with the types of jokes that you throw around there. I was fortunate that when I was at business school, I had my own clique of veteran friends that I could throw those types of jokes around. But in the civilian side, you got to understand that be more cognizant of who you're joking around with. So.
Okay.
One thing I'd like to add on that, and it's something I've gotten feedback on actually, is coming from the military, we all have, you work in not necessarily life and death situations every day, but you have perhaps more extreme experiences of decisions, they have more extreme decisions than something in the civilian sector where it's not going to affect that much in the grand scheme of things. One, I thought it was a strength of mine is coming in I am relatively calm under pressure. I can kind of deal with things as they come, but I actually got feedback on my reviews where people thought I was perhaps not as invested in whatever the problem is they're working on, because they thought I wasn't taking it as seriously. Because in my opinion, I wasn't freaking out as much as some people, but I think that's just something to be cognizant of as coming from the military into the civilian sector is you have a lot of experience dealing with more high stress
Yeah,
situations
absolutely.
than a lot of people probably, and just how that you're keeping calm in those situations
Oh, absolutely.
might perhaps give the opposite impression of what you're intending.
No,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
12 years, I've been out in the private sector for 12 years, and I still get that feedback.
Yeah.
And even to the point that coworkers and managers will always cite the fact that it's because I'm an Army guy.
Yeah.
It actually kind of bothers me a little
Yeah.
bit, just from the fact that handling pressure and the way that certainly I've been trained over the years, or is how
Yeah.
I'm handling pressure. It should be seen as an asset.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's what I think. Certainly, I think industry needs to kind of come to
Yeah.
understand that that's an asset.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, freaking out is not a benefit.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this is a very strong trait of leadership, that how do you behave under pressure? That if you are a leader of men and women, if there is pressure applied to you, how do you behave? Do you let it out to your subordinates or people who are under you, or you stay calm, you focus on the problem, and you are very objective rather than being subjective? Or I think there are different ways of actually showing that calmness, and I think that I absolutely agree with you. This is an asset rather than, I think I would be that's really strange if people are judging you on based on how much you freaked out based on a problem as an investment. I think that's probably a wrong behavior. But I think I do think this is also that when you are in a company, it's also how you set the expectations, that this is how you quantify, that how you make decisions. Because one of the things what I believe veterans have really good skills is this ability to seamlessly transfer from a strategy zone to an execution zone. And I think to make these trade-offs, because I think ability to make trade-offs, whether you are making it from a finance perspective, technology, business, anything, or even a human relationship perspective, these are very hard skills to gain. There is no course for actually learning that. And I think that's something which I've always admired in veterans, that ability to make those life-changing decisions. I think that's what needs to be more quantified. With this, Paul, you are in a very interesting stage. You are still active. You are still active, an active duty, and you're also, transitioning to civilian life. One of the things I really admired with you when you were in the cohort is how you were building these artifacts. I think one of the examples, if I may share with your permission, is you had a dream company in mind, and I will not, or maybe I should name your dream company. Maybe they'll hear you. So, like, DoorDash was Paul's dream company, and as we were going through these exercises of creating business cases, doing math on lifetime value of the customer, CAC, and modeling, and so on and so forth, I want to change gears here and get into the section of getting to adapting culture fit as you're moving in. We talked a lot about strengths. We also wanted to get your perspective, starting with you, Tom. When you are in the military also, there are some areas you may not be exposed to as compared to civilian, like, a lot of these B2C apps, like, or things which are trends, because when you are in the military, mission is nation. That is the critical, not being on, that's one of the things that you may not be aware of. What is the latest on technology? What is the latest on business? You may not know what the stock market is doing. So that is one area I feel that which may not come across as strength right away if you're leaving the military. So what are the other areas you think where veterans, because they are serving the country, serving the nation, that they may not be up to speed, and what are the kind of things people might want to do to overcome that?
Yeah, I think certainly my first, second year into at Boeing and the defense side of the business, what I knew from an academic standpoint about profit and loss was hard to really grasp kind of the impact to the business and how it actually drove decisions that were going on. I was an economics major at West Point, and I had not been to my business program, but I understood the basic math of it.
Yeah.
But how it actually affected, things like quota, sales targets, things of that nature, how we do forecasting, and kind of the downstream impact of those type of what seemed to me be academic decisions, how it actually drove through the business. And so luckily I was in an operational role, and so I had the opportunity to observe and learn actually how all that worked versus being in a position where I had to make a decision or do the actual calculations and didn't understand the ramifications of things.
Yeah.
So I think that's certainly I think one. And because, in the military you don't really deal with quote, we deal with budgets, you don't deal with profit.
Yeah.
You don't worry about revenue and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And so that's probably the biggest change. Is like you have to think like a business person and not like a cost center.
Got it. Great. About you, Jeff, anything you felt was an unexpected challenge, which when you were transitioning while during your B school time, or once you finished school and you were in your first job, or even the second job, like something which was unexpected, if you can talk about that.
I mean, besides everyone being late. I'm still not over that. But one thing that I think is still challenging for me, even my first job at Amazon, my current job, is working with people that, compared to the military, where now in the civilian sector, you're working with people who are you're working for the same company, but you're all not necessarily working towards the same goal.
Correct.
Where in the military, whatever unit you're in, whether it's training for going on a NTC rotation or going to deployment or going to the field or whatever, you have many different people within your organization in the military in different specialties, but you're all still pulling for that same goal. Where in the civilian sector, and especially in a product manager role as a tech company at Amazon, you're on a team, you're on an organization, but everyone is honestly pulling in different directions. It's almost a zero-sum game.
I see.
To where if a product manager on my team, if his or her product gets the resources behind it, they get the dev resources behind it, my project is not going to get those dev resources. And so understanding how to operate in that type of environment and understanding that you have to be more of an advocate for yourself and what you're doing and not necessarily... It's very counterintuitive to the military.
Right.
Not necessarily worrying about the team, but worrying about your product, whatever you're working on, and really become an advocate of this is why we should do that. Do whatever you are advocating, not necessarily as like negating someone else's efforts, but really saying, just really being a voice for yourself and why you think what you're doing is important, and letting the powers that be make their judgment is something you have to almost develop skill set at and really become more efficient at advocating for yourself and your projects, where in the military, if you're in your organization, you don't necessarily have to do that type of thing.
No, that's great. One of the things also, a quick add-on is, in military is also a lot of things are mission driven, that mission triumphs everything else. The resources, whatever resources you have, you're frugal with that, and you're trying to achieve your mission objectives based on whatever you have. If we take that as an analogy and bring it to the corporate world, that one of the things which is highly respected in the technology and product sector these days is frugality, that with less number of resources you are able to do more. If you can please give us some insight, how could someone who has been in the military and has some experience, any one of you can take this, that who has experience of doing with less resources because mission triumphs everything else, how can someone bring that kind of strength to companies where frugality or doing something with less resources, especially startups, because there is not a lot of funding and maybe not a lot of resources. How do you guys think of that?
So when I was deployed to Iraq, I was stationed at a small outpost in the middle of Iraq with limited resources. So you realize very quickly that what you learn at training goes out the window. You got to be street smart, essentially.
Yeah.
And you got to, that's being street smart is what allowed us to survive in Iraq. To coordinate with resources from other units, see what's out there, see who they are, make those relationships, form those relationships, understand like, hey, you got this resource, I don't have it. By you allocating some resource over here, I can achieve this mission more effectively.
Okay.
Just being able to communicate to those peoples from other units and help influence them to help help you. That was a really valuable experience in the Army, because in the Army you just play with the cards that you deal with. Same thing at Boeing. Boeing's such a massive organization. However, you're on a team, and you got to see what resources are out there in Boeing, and trying to get someone from all the way in Philadelphia, San Antonio, Oklahoma City, or St. Louis trying to assist your project. You got to be able to communicate in a certain way So they're more likely to help you out than not. So.
I think these are great things. I think what I have seen in my experience is in both technology, product, or even finance roles on Wall Street, two attributes are valued tremendously. One is clarity of thought. Another one is communication skills, whether it's written or spoken. What I have seen in my experience with the veterans over the years is I think these two people are gifted. Like the clarity of thought, if people think, men and women think a certain way, this is how it's to be done. They have thought through all the pros and cons. There is a method to this thinking. That is number one. And number two is the way how it's communicated. Because I think in today's age where one word can be taken out of context, can mean anything, I think that is such a tremendous amount of skill and depth in people. I think that's really wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing the story from Iraq. And
I just wanted to add what Jeff said about your question about unexpected challenges.
Sure.
So I think from someone who's trying to transition out, some of the unexpected challenges that you'll face is you'll go through the interview cycle, which will be like 3 to 4 different interviews, which can take about easily from 4 to 6 weeks. So timeline is kind of an unexpected challenge. And then once you actually do the on-site, like just because you do the on-site, that doesn't mean you're gonna actually get the role. So just to be open with the fact that, hey, like you're gonna do this, you're gonna go through this 6 to 8 week cycle of interviewing. You feel really good, go to the on-site, and you feel like you have it in the bag. And then you might talk to 1 or 2 guys or girls who may not really understand your business value, or may not really want to take that leap of faith. And then that you might feel like that 6 to 8 weeks of work will kind of like goes down the drain.
Absolutely.
So just kind of be cognizant of like your timeline, and also not being afraid to like put yourself out there, but and failing, because even though you might not get the role, like that whole interview cycle is such a great experience, and like during those interviews you get to like network, learn more about the company.
It's building a skill.
It's building a skill.
It's all about getting reps. Like you just need to get those reps in, and your first interview, you're like, this was crap. And by your 5th interview, you don't even like, if you feel like you don't even have to prepare. Or like, I got this in the bag. You can just start like just knocking it off. The STAR method. You'll get great at it.
So definitely keeping that in mind. Like, hey, like you're probably gonna do multiple interviews. Like loyalty. I know in the military, like being loyal to your organization, being loyal to your team is like it's ingrained in us, but in the civilian sector, when you are applying to these jobs, like you might have to apply to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different jobs with the intent of, hey, each of these roles, like I'm willing to put my 100% in, and not feeling so disheartened if they say no to you at the end. And a no, like at the current moment, is not a no forever. Like
that's true.
You build your skill set, you build your experience, and if that's the mission that you still want to serve, then hey, like you definitely re-engage.
And it's also about being a generalist, that today, I think the world of today is that what you are doing today may not be really applicable 2 years down the line. The ability to reinvent yourself is also something which is highly desired, not only in the military side but also in the civilian side. I think that's also that, like if someone was probably using a certain type of weapon which probably got deprecated, or people have moved on to the new range of weapons or tactics. The same thing applies to the civilian sector as well. Whatever was probably mainstay or conventional is not considered the mainstream of things. So I think that's good. So Paul, one last question on this section, and we'll move to the next one. Is as you are the the one who is in this piece of transition now. As you're talking to companies, as you're talking to startups, big companies, small companies, non-profits, what is the signal for you personally? How do you filter that this company is a good fit for you as a veteran or not? What are the kind of things? Because the reason I want to ask you this is also signals for the corporate, that what are the kind of things they should do and not do, which may discourage people. If you can share something on that.
So one thing I like to do, like big picture, like just see what the internet has to say about the company. So like there's like a lot of websites like Glassdoor, even YouTube, these ranking systems where you kind of see like comments of what they say about the company. And then definitely reaching out to people that actually work in the company and seeing if they're receptive. Because I personally like to work in a very collaborative, self-giving environment. So once I see like the employees being very receptive to hey, like, yeah, I'm willing to give you a 5-10 minute chat and talk a little bit about the company, I think that leaves like a very deep impression to me. And then once you like kind of build that relationship with those people in the company and ask those specific questions, I think that's where you could see like, hey, like this is what I want in the company, whether it's like teamwork, mission focus, value focus, purpose over profit, and kind of you can kind of discern from those conversations, and also looking at their website, their mission value, their direction, their blogs, if this is like something you want to go.
The reason I wanted to ask you this is now, like a lot of companies want diversity in not only kind of people there, there's also diversity of thought, people coming from different kind of experiences. So if I was someone who's not a traditional kind of a worker at a particular company, normally people have role models that, oh, you know, what if companies start doing that? Do you think veterans would be, if say for example, if I'm just taking this as a hypothetical question, if Amazon made you as one of their ambassadors saying, hey, you know, Tom has been working with us, and do you think that will affect as Amazon or any other company, ABC, wherever people are employed, that it will encourage veterans to apply that, oh, there is already a veteran working there in this job? Do you think that kind of thing would help?
Absolutely. I think it's being done informally. This is somewhat of an informal
Correct.
event.
Yeah.
And you know, I've had a meeting with Paul before when I was working at Microsoft.
Yeah.
And certainly I think it gives them an inside view. And you know, talking to veteran.
Yeah.
I'm always very straightforward with them, exactly what I experience and what I see. And I think even to the question that Paul answered earlier about what do you look at in a company, one thing I certainly have been advising veterans of late is make sure the company that you are interested in sees you for more of your potential than your resume.
Oh wow, what a great, yeah.
I think there's been a bit, my experience and experience of other veterans I've talked to, there's a tendency just to see that veteran as a operations guy, because it's what we all basically have done. And second point, make sure the person you're interviewing with, that hiring manager, also sees you the same way.
Yeah.
That they don't put you in a box. That they don't see you. They don't have a growth mindset on what you can do, and give you the opportunity to do so. I had a manager like that, and I quickly recognized that and tried to coach him to be a little more open-minded. And then moving in that direction, I found another person to work for.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And because he didn't see me as more than the veteran, and I had been out of the service for, I think at that point, at least 7 years. But he still saw me as an Army guy, so to speak.
Yep.
And so certainly just be, you know, company is certainly important. More important is who that manager is.
And Jeff, if I may take this, how do you build that kind of network? How do you build that ecosystem of people who are willing to support you? Like, how can someone start on that?
Yeah, I think number one, like very basic, is like fill out your LinkedIn profile. Put up a picture. Like just fill it out. Like, I've had people reach out to me, or I've seen like as I'm scrolling through LinkedIn, like you might know this person. And even if yes, I do, like I know who that person is. You don't have a picture, like I'm not going to connect with you.
Absolutely.
Because you're not willing to put in the effort to like be a voice for yourself out in the world. That's like just level one. Like do that. And that's like half of the game right there. And I think number two, as veterans, and I did this while I was in business school. I'm not sure the exact length of time, but LinkedIn has a program where you get free access to their premium.
Yes, they still have that.
Features.
Yes,
I'm not sure exactly if it's a month,
I think,
months,
something like that. Yeah.
With that, you can reach out to people, and a lot of the LinkedIn and kind of reach out that network. If you don't have it professionally, if you don't go to business school, or if you don't have those other resources, it's a lot of cold emailing, a lot of connecting and if you're still in the military, like that's a big plus, because you can try like I'm still in the military, and that will open up a lot of doors for you. It's not going to get you a job, but it's going to open the opening conversations to possibly getting a job down the line, or being connected to someone who can help you out in the future.
Yeah, one of the things I realized is there is no there is alum groups for like veterans in technology. If I have to find someone who was in West Point, I'm just making this up, like who was in West Point, and there is a company of interest, ABC. How can someone like me, if there is a veteran, I want to know if they were someone who went to the same branch or same regiment or whatever line of Army or Navy I was in, how can I find someone from my how does
LinkedIn certainly has the filters available for it. Actually, probably a more recent app called GradLink.
GradLink, okay.
Is actually probably the better way to do it. You can quote filter for exactly these year groups, people who graduated around you. You may have known them. Pick out the companies, pick out the locations, and so forth there. Like even I actually just did a recent search out of curiosity.
Nice.
Who's in this area here.
Right.
There's about, amongst Army veterans, West Point graduates in the area in King County, there's about 400.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
really nice. Yeah.
And so, I know that, I can pretty much put an email out there and someone's going to return that call to me.
The reason I was asking you that is because a lot of times I have seen is in the civilian side of things, for someone to be a mentor to a serviceman or a servicewoman, sometimes they may think they don't have the skills to mentor. So I think that's what I was trying to think, that I hope people who are listening, they take this as a pledge that from today they will at least try to help at least one veteran in their life. So I think that would be a really good cause. You are supporting your country, and our veterans deserve all the help and support you need. But I think this is also very, it has to come from within for people, that finding mentors who are driven, who can help you with the right, it's very difficult to find. Like, I think that's one of the problems we are facing in this space, that there aren't enough people who are wanting to give back. So how would we create such a pipeline? What would you suggest?
Well, I think, fortunately for the Army culture in general, personal development is really valued in the Army. I was really fortunate to be brought under awesome leaders who took their personal time to develop me personally.
Right.
And even though I'm out of the Army, I take personal development very seriously. So every time a veteran has come across me on LinkedIn, I've always taken the time to help give them that advice that I wish I had when I was leaving. And same thing when I was leaving the service as well. Every veteran that I try to reach out to LinkedIn, they've been very gracious to talk me through their experiences and gave me some helpful advice. And literally every veteran group that I've talked to, interacted with, they share the same culture and values of personal development as if they were still in the military. So.
Oh, that's really good. And is it also that, how would you, so you're saying the approach is easy, if you approach someone from the military, that would be good. But say, for example, you had to reach out to someone who's a civilian, and that person has some experience and could be of help to you. What are the kind of things you would say probably inhibit people from reaching out to a civilian colleague saying, hey, I want to have coffee with you, I want to pick your brain on how your company works? Do you think people have that kind of inhibition?
I would certainly use a contact to that contact.
I see.
And I've done that before.
I see.
Typically, it's somebody who's a veteran or whatever. I'm like, say, Paul, hey, I want to go to this company. I see that you're connected to them. Could you provide an introduction to them?
Sure.
You know me and what I've been able to do over the course of my life. It's like, and obviously, don't make it obvious you're job hunting.
Absolutely.
Make it very clear.
Absolutely.
Learn something.
Yeah.
Actually, that's something I almost say on every call I do with a veteran. Just to let you know, I'm not in a position to hire anyone right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so, like, kind of temper down. So, like, relax. Don't feel like you're being interviewed. Have a conversation with me.
Yeah.
And so, certainly, but at the same point, I hear you that some civilians do feel kind of, or ones who have pure civilian backgrounds, military backgrounds, they feel a little, awkward trying to advise someone who's coming out of the military.
Yeah.
That's actually a great kind of gap you've identified there.
Yeah.
Is that sometimes there are not veterans there, or you don't have a connection there.
Yeah.
And so what do you do?
I was thinking if something like LinkedIn had a badge system, like a lot of people want to support, causes what are closest to their heart. A lot of people think diversity, they want to help women who are parents wanting to come back, people wanting
Sounds
to support
like a great
better.
product idea.
Yeah, I think that's something I would reach out to folks at LinkedIn. I think that's the kind of thing where you have a profile, you want to give back to whatever cause is of interest to you. Maybe it's diversity, if it is education, helping veterans. I think having that level of some kind of data or metadata about every profile, I think it would be so useful for people. And also that, this person can mentor up to 5 people, and 1, 2, 3, 4, there is 2 slots available. I think something of that sort, where I feel this has to be addressed at a more scalable level, because what I think is the thing which is missing is, whenever offline as a civilian I talk to my friends or colleagues, I ask them, hey, what is our policy, or what are we doing for our veterans? Everyone wants to help, but sometimes they don't know how to help. And I think if that is one thing which is some kind of a product gap, and I think LinkedIn or Facebook, whatever, some social media, some big influencer, if there was a tag saying, I want to help people with this cause, I have seen Twitter do this, like people like Naval Ravikant, he's a very famous strategist. He talks a lot about crypto. Everyone in Twitter knows he's a guy for that. And he does live podcasts and shares his knowledge with people. That's one great way, but discoverability of such people is very hard. I think it has to be done something at a...
I think for me personally, when next time I get a call from a veteran, I need to put them in touch with someone who's no civilian background. And I've certainly I've done that of late. I typically connect them to another veteran. They can have that, they don't have that translation layer to deal with. But I'd say that certainly from advice I've given to other veterans as well is that they certainly need to expand their network beyond their veteran network.
Right.
You may get kind of boxed in. You typically rely on that network.
Right.
And that's certainly important to create a diversity of your network.
In one sense, you guys have done that. Like you went to school, having your school alumnus is a great way to get in touch. You have the first set of skills you built, you got into the company, but how do you sustain it? Because a lot of times it's that building skills, and I think technology and product is also, this area is so fast moving. What are the kind of things you can, maybe, this is, all of you can please feel free to chime in, that what are the kind of things you would suggest that, and this is also generic for anybody who is not even a veteran, that how do you stay relevant? How do you, because the kind of transition you have done is a big, you have won the battle, right? But it's also, you have to build skills, right? So how do you do that?
For me, it's about just feeding my curiosity and never settling, just keep on doing the mundane. I've always taken a builder's perspective in my career, not just quote an operational guy that's just pulling levers. Certainly, just it's pretty straightforward. Is I was being in this industry, it's very important to watch technology trends. And if you're not ahead of that trend, that wave will probably crash on you.
Right.
And so certainly, I kind of keep that bit of that, bit of that fear factor in place. That always kind of gives me both a negative and a positive motivation to do those things. Secondly, is certainly the network. Obviously, for me, the veteran network is something I certainly build my knowledge about other things about. Certainly ensuring that I'm working with people of different backgrounds, different countries and backgrounds and so forth. My last role when I was at Microsoft, I worked in a global role.
Oh, wow.
And I worked with teams from 100 countries around the world. And so certainly it gave me an opportunity to see new things and understand things that I understood in a whole new way. And so I think purposely exposing yourself to different situations keeps your edge, and more importantly, keeps you ahead.
Great. Any insights on that?
Yeah, I think building off what was said is also the relationship aspect, both within your company and outside your company and your larger professional network. There's, assuming you're if you're a product manager at a big tech company, Amazon, Facebook, any one of those, or even some of the more medium-sized smaller ones, there are so many interesting and cool things being done by the people in your company that in your everyday job you're not going to see, because you're so focused on getting your product launched and hitting whatever milestones you need to hit for you personally and professionally, that you really need to, in order to stay relevant, stay aware of what else is going on, is take that step back, reach out to someone not necessarily within your organization and the company, but someone that you have as a second or third connection, or you heard something cool about, or a lot of these companies offer internal professional development things, or this team is giving a lunch and learn about this. Just go to it. Just see. If it sounds interesting, just go and see what types of things are being done within your company and within the sector at large, and just go talk to people after and build relationships there, and that will help you stay abreast of things that you might not otherwise know of, and also really build your professional network for when you are thinking about making that next step, jumping to another company, jumping to a new position. That if you build those relationships, it kind of lays the groundwork for whatever you want to do in the future.
One of the things also I learned is there are things like Medium. that people write detailed articles. To share one quick story is, almost 1.5 years back, I didn't know anything about AI, artificial intelligence or machine learning, zero, zilch. But I started reading on Medium. I saw a lot of people writing articles in depth, in detail. What it helped me is, almost in 1 year, I actually created a product and a company on the side, which I got into one of the hackathons and got into startup school because of that. Just with this inorganic learning, I think these are great ways also, because a lot of this is self-explanatory also these days. A lot of videos on YouTube is a great leveler. I think a lot of people underestimate YouTube because it's just, if you start off simple, I think that's the beauty in it. If you start with simple concepts and then try to grow, grow your knowledge is a great thing as well. For Alex, I think one area I wanted to ask you was, MBA seems, I think that's a very strong thing you strongly recommend. How is preparation for MBA? Because that's also GMAT, cracking GMAT is also, it's not easy. That after a certain point of time in your life, you may be busy with family, kids, or there are so many things. It could be so many things. You're already challenged with this transition, right? Yeah. And then you have to study and you have to get a great score. So if you can share your, because you probably are the most recent.
It was an overall positive experience. But I mean, you got to understand, it's a 2-year, you got to dedicate 2 years to your life.
Yeah.
I always questioned if my business school experience could have been shortened, because I see, after you get your internship, you get your job offer, and then that's after year 1, and then what are you going to do with year 2? You're just taking, a bunch of, extra classes while, drinking beers with your buddies at night. So. Yeah, like I said, it was overall positive. I really think it could have been shortened. And like I mentioned before, the reason why I went to business school is because that was the only option.
I see.
Because I think when I was trying to get out, we had these military headhunters hit us up. And like, oh, this is kind of interesting. What opportunities are there? Yeah. And the vast majority of them were medical device sales.
Oh, okay.
You probably know. It's I'm not a salesman. I do not want to be a salesman.
Yeah.
And then, I try to, I was stationed at Joint Base McCourt at the time, and I wanted to, find a job in the local companies. And I tried to apply online, and I got shot down. And there's really no other avenue but to go to business school.
Oh, great.
But had I had these opportunities that you guys are creating for veterans, I definitely think I would have taken up that chance.
Actually, I was recently in Washington, D.C. I realized there were a lot of these companies like Northrop Grumman and companies which are in the defense sector, Boeing, and I don't recall the names correctly. That also seems like a great transition, like you are in the military and you go and work for someone who's a system integrator or someone who is creating systems or weapons or whatever of that sort. Because that also, do you guys think that would be some good way?
That's the route I took. Actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I joined Boeing Defense and Space Systems here in the local area, and I joined a team that did what we refer to as command and control systems software.
Right.
Line of business.
Yeah, sure.
And so obviously I had a frame of reference of what the purpose of these applications were for. And so I saw that as my opportunity to demonstrate, opportunity for to show my value right away.
Right.
When you enter, say, a pure, traditional retail commercial side, you kind of have to sponge it up and figure out really how to make things work for a little bit. Whereas I almost was somewhat to a certain degree hit the ground running pretty quickly in that role. But certainly I had an apprehension that I wanted to diversify my experience, that I just don't want to be an Army guy that's worked in the defense sector. And so for me, I kind of split the difference. I wanted to learn software, but I had knowledge on the customer, and that gave me an opportunity to learn the business of software much more deeply versus trying to learn two things at the same time.
Yeah.
So you have to make that decision, as I think I've told some of these guys before. Make the decision of doing something that's close to your sweet spot, or you're going to have to take some time, get an MBA, or take a little bit of a longer road to get to where you want to go.
Oh, great. Which brings me to the last question of the evening. So this is for you, Paul. One of the things which I also realized is people in the defense services also do overseas duty, right? They're stationed in peace stations, placed in the theater of war. it also gives you that experience of working overseas. Do you think that is something also which could be a good line, that as our veterans are trying to find jobs here, there are a lot of very interesting jobs of US companies overseas, in UK, in Europe, Asia, Africa, South America. Do you think that is something which people could take, because it's also they know this ability to assimilate with the culture? What is your
Yeah, that's a great
thought on that?
question. So not everyone, gets deployed.
I see.
Not everyone gets to, travel the world.
I see.
So definitely depending on your background
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the culture that you're immersed in.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say generally, America being like working in the United States, like
Mm-hmm.
you have the most advantage when working in the United States, unless there is like a company that you know of,
Mm-hmm.
a network that you know of in a specific country, or a specific company that's working in a specific country.
I see.
But I see generally, if you stay in America, like the network is here. Like most U.S. veterans are probably going to be here. Most of your network,
Yeah.
your classmates, your colleagues, are going to be here. So I would say like the U.S. is probably the safest bet.
I see. All right. With that, I want to give a round of applause to all our esteemed panelists. Thank you, Tom, Jeff, Alex, Paul. Great. So we are grateful to you for your time, for your advice, and this is going to be a continued series. Paul and me have kind of committed that we'll do such sessions regularly, once or twice a year, because we want to keep this updated and help our veteran community. So we might invite you again for more deep dive sessions on this. Thank you so much again.